Flow is one of the most important concepts in psychology, but it's almost always described as an individual experience. It's something that happens inside of the mind when you're deeply focused on a task, when you stop noticing the world around you, when you lose track of time. Flow is an incredibly valuable experience, but when we focus only on the individual, you miss something very important. It's because some of the most important moments happen when we're not alone, but when we're together with other people, when people come together in groups. And when groups are performing at their peak in an optimal experience, I call it group flow. It's a type of flow, but it doesn't occur inside one person's mind. It happens between minds. And it's not something that one person experiences either. It's something that a group creates together. So think about a jazz ensemble. At the beginning of the performance, the musicians are still finding their way. They're listening, they're testing out ideas, they're figuring out how to play with each other, and it can feel tentative. That might not be group flow yet. It might not be the optimal experience, but that's what they're looking for. They don't know when it's going to happen, but they've learned to trust that it will happen. Suddenly, one musician plays a phrase and it has a certain sound. Another one responds to that, and a third one picks that one up. The musical ideas begin to build, and no one is planning ahead. No one knows exactly what's going to happen next. And yet, everything starts to fit together. The music develops a flow on its own. There's a direction, and it might seem like it was planned in advance. It might seem like they had rehearsed it ahead of time. Often it does, as a matter of fact, but they haven't rehearsed it ahead of time. The group created it together on the spot. And it wasn't created by any one musician either. It emerges from the interaction between the musicians, from everyone contributing together. It didn't happen inside of any one musician's mind. It happened between them, between their minds, coming together. So what's going on here? It's not just individual creativity. It's not just people soloing side by side. The jazz group doesn't have a leader either. It's not like the most senior or the best musician is standing at the front of the stage telling the other musicians what they should do. There's something else going on, and that's what I call group flow. It's a shared state, a shared collective state of creativity. It's a peak experience, but it's not the subjective peak experience that we think of as flow. It's a peak experience that's collective, that's the group, and it's when thinking and action and interaction merge together into a single process, all the musicians, all of the people participating coming together. In the past, most of the research on flow is the psychological and the mental state. It's an optimal experience of a personal type of fulfillment. And that research is focused on individuals. It's really important research, and that's because we know that people in flow are more creative. There's a big connection between the flow state and creativity. But creativity isn't only about solitary people working alone. Flow research showed something very powerful about creativity and flow, but it also applies to groups, to group flow, and to collaborative creativity. The best moments in life don't come from relaxing, and they don't come from comfort. They're not necessarily comfortable or pleasurable. Those moments come from being challenged, from the challenges of a task, and they come from being fully engaged. And here's the key insight from flow research, that some of the most meaningful experiences in life are not the solitary, not the individual moments. They're not the moments that happen in any one person's brain. They're collective moments. They happen between people. So think about a great conversation, or think about a team that suddenly clicks, or think about a group project that was kind of tedious, but then it becomes exciting. It's in those moments that the group becomes more than the sum of the parts. It's not additive anymore, where you just have people together in a room like a collective, but it's more than the sum of the parts. And something emerges that no single person could have created alone. And that's group flow. Once you start to see group flow and you realize it, you realize how important it is, because most of the important work that we do happens in groups, whether it's at work or whether it's in a classroom or it's in a creative collaboration. But unfortunately, most groups don't experience group flow, and I've found that in my own research as well. Most meetings are pretty rigid. People focus on their own ideas. People want their own individual creativity to shine. They want to get credit for their own ideas. It's what I call the possessiveness mindset. And we know that it kills creativity of the group. It kills group flow. And this is why groups often perform worse than if you just took all those same individuals and put them in rooms by themselves. It's because of that possessiveness mindset. They're not getting into group flow. You're not getting the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. So why is group flow so rare? And what can we do to make it happen? Based on decades of research, there's a clear answer. Group flow doesn't happen by accident. From my research, I've identified 10 conditions for group flow. And you can read about all 10 in the description, but I'm just going to talk about 3 here. The first one is that groups need a shared goal. And that's the same as research on individual creativity, as a matter of fact. You need a shared goal that you're going for. But with group flow, it can't be a rigidly structured plan. There has to be some room for improvisation. There has to be some uncertainty. You might even say ambiguity. So there has to be a clear goal, but there has to be some openness to that goal. For group flow to happen, groups need to know what they're trying to do, but they have to remain open to unexpected possibilities. So again, think about that jazz ensemble. Right? They don't know what's going to happen. And as a matter of fact, if they knew where they were going, if they knew what was going to happen, it wouldn't be jazz. But they know that they're looking for something. They kind of know what it is. I mean, they're trying to create a performance that's going to be a compelling performance for the audience, but they don't know what it's going to look like yet. So it's a balance between having a clear goal, but also having some uncertainty where you're improvising your way to the endpoint. And when groups improvise, that's when the magic happens. That's when group flow happens. The second condition for group flow, I call it deep listening. And that means you're not just waiting for your turn to talk. You're sitting there and, going through the motions of listening, and then that person stops and you say what you were going to say anyway. It's fully paying attention to what the other person is saying. And then you're prepared to respond by building on what that person just said. You're not just saying what you were going to say anyway, but you are responding so that the conversation builds from moment to moment. And that's what starts to make it more than just additive, but greater than the sum of the parts. The third condition that you need for group flow is that everyone is participating equally. In the best groups, there's not one single dominant voice. There's not one leader and there's not one director. Like in the jazz ensemble, there's not, the famous saxophone player standing up front pointing at people. The flow emerges collectively. Leadership, you might say, is distributed between people. It's a bottom up rather than top down. Emergence from the bottom up. That's group flow. No one person controls the outcome. Everyone collectively controls what's going to happen. When these conditions come together, something amazing happens. People are interacting improvisationally, and they're no longer just a collection of people. They become something greater than themselves. New ideas emerge, and the ideas don't belong to any one person. Interaction and improvisation become the source of creativity. The power of group flow is the possibility that something will emerge that no one person could have planned, no one person could have thought of it alone. Group flow is a new way of thinking about creativity because it's not just about the mind. It's not just about psychology. It's something that happens between minds. Group flow emerges from interaction between people. And this has implications for how we design teams, for how we teach, for how we work together, for how we live our everyday lives with our friends and with our families. When you're in group flow, it can feel mysterious. It can feel powerful. In fact, It should if it's happening well. I mean, stage improvisers have often said that it's something like a drug, and that's why stage improvisers and jazz musicians keep doing it. But it isn't magic. We know a lot about it now from research onto group flow, and it's not something that's mysterious. It's something that we can understand, and it's something that we can learn to do better. We can learn how to make it happen. The most important ideas don't always come from individuals. They emerge when people think together. If you're interested in ideas like this one, please consider subscribing to this channel. I'll be posting more on creativity, collaboration, and learning. And you can also listen to the audio version on Spotify or Apple Podcast. And I write about these topics on my Substack as well.